We begin with queering up breaking news. Don't Say Gay expanded to all ages in Florida public schools. At the request of the DeSantis administration, the Florida Department of Education approved a rule today barring public school classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity for all grades. The department is building upon restrictions from the parental rights and education law dubbed Don't Say Gay by critics, which focus on classroom instruction in kindergarten through third grade. The rule prohibits teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity in grade 4 and higher unless required by state academic standards or part of a reproductive health course of lesson. Teachers who violate the prohibition could have their licenses suspended or revoked. The rule goes beyond legislation the Republican majority legislature is considering, which would expand the prohibition of classroom instruction through 8th grade. State Education Commissioner Manny Diaz Jr. said, quote, "The teaching of our standards is what should be going on, and none of this material is covered in our standards," end quote. Well, late breaking news. What do you folks think? I mean, when Don't Say Gay was first presented, we were all saying, oh, but it's only till third grade and no one's teaching sexual orientation or anything like that to third graders, right? And then people like Francesca and other folks were like, this is just kind of a doorway to make them make it all the way till 12th grade. And I was one of the people that was like, nah, there's no way. Come on. And here we are.
I'm actually not surprised. You know, last year people were like, oh, it's only kindergarten through third grade. It doesn't really affect us. And I'm like, no, there's a bigger agenda behind this. And all LGBTQ plus folks are going to be affected by this. And this is a doorway through using children as bait. And it's just horrible. It's hard, but I'm not surprised that this is where we are right now. With Safe Schools, we deal a lot with our GSAs in high schools. So we've basically been ousted from high schools, and we've had to reinvent ourselves to create safe spaces and create connections with students virtually. So we have to keep on fighting for our students, and we have to keep on creating spaces, safe spaces for our students to come to as a community.
My master's research when I went through school was all about suicide rates of LGBTQ plus kids going through school, and depending on the population that you looked at, it was anywhere between 15 and 50 times higher than for their straight counterparts.
Oh my goodness.
So now to not even see yourself represented in a standard curricula, and for a lot of kids, they don't even get to see their families represented in that curricula.
Yeah.
I am very sad to say that number is going to go up.
Yeah, the Trevor Project says it every year, and especially when things like this happen, of course those numbers are going to go up. John?
Well, what makes this especially odious is that it's not a law. Now, yeah, the state legislature and the Congress, they can make very narrow laws to target one specific thing. But generally, laws are written like when they give guidance to things like the Department of Education. And then the rulemaking is left to the department. And in theory, that's a good thing because it allows a department to be more flexible, to change with the times. We saw a lot of that during COVID.
Yeah.
Agencies, revamped their own rules to be able to adjust to current situations. But what makes this even worse is that DeSantis is going to be there saying, K through 8, and now he's saying K through 12. It's like he's trying to have both, and no one's really going to know what to do, what to repeal, and none of this is going to be able to be completely and easily overturned. This is how they're able to revoke liquor licenses from, I believe it was the Hyatt down in Miami, and things like that. So it's this weaponization of the bureaucracy, which I know I've been harping on for weeks now, but it's something that it just continues to go on, and we have to point it out. These people who are making the rules are not our elected representatives.
Yeah.
Well, as a teacher for 20 plus years, last year when the Don't Say Gay bill passed or law, I had an elementary class, and the first thing I was thinking was like, all right, K through third grade, normally the subject doesn't come up. The subject that comes up all the time is, Mr. Trinidadi, are you single? And are you married?
What's your wife's name, right?
Yeah. And all kids, if you ever teach any group of kids, you'll always get that. And so, because nobody wants this, I've been single my whole life, so it's totally fine. But I was thinking, what would I say? And so I was consulting with other teachers. I'm like, how do we answer these questions? And there was that situation, I think it was in Orange County or somewhere in Florida, where they were questioning whether they could put pictures of their spouses up. And so at first they said no. And so people were taking their pictures down, but then enough complaining happened. They said they can put them back up. But my high school classes, it wouldn't be the first, second, or third time where a kid comes out to you. Especially a music teacher, an arts teacher, somebody, we've typically been their safe spaces. So when they come up to you and say, you know, I'm feeling this way and this is how my parents feel about this, or my religious background or whatever, we've always been able to kind of be there without too much of a feeling of we're overstepping. And now, I don't know. I mean, like, do I get fired for that? You know, it's a really difficult situation, and it sucks. We have to fight this.
And they call you Mr. Trinidaddy? I just always assumed it was Mr. Daddy.
Well, I'll refrain from saying all that stuff just because, you know, another thing is just as a gay male teacher, like you always feel like you have a target on your back. So I have to be so careful all the time about anything that I say about my personal life, anything that could be put on social media, all of that stuff. So we already have that pressure, and to now have this codified into law that we can't even speak on anything about or who we are as people, it's terrible.
And we're going to lose a lot of really good teachers like Mr. Trinidaddy because of that. Because I mean, if I was a teacher and I was going through that, I just wouldn't, you know? Teachers don't get paid that much to have to go through all that. And exactly like Trini said, I mean, we all know those arts teachers that like saved our asses, saved our lives, made us feel seen. You know, maybe we didn't come out to them, but we at least knew, okay, this is a safe space for us. And now that will be taken away as well.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show from Happening Out Television Network. In the model of PBS and NPR, we educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the stories going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.